I will say that not being able to forgive him was a poison for me because I was always constantly, my energy is draining because I was holding grudges towards him because of him. This happened because of, I was very angry and I couldn't be a better person.
Betrayal by a spouse can bring overwhelming confusion and anger. Burmese expat Flora Aye described it as feeling stuck in a self-made prison, chained down, and at times suffocating. Imagine for a moment what it feels like to be constantly drained of energy for years while raising 3 young children on your own. Then, on top of that, trying to find the time and strength to process your spouse's infidelity. How do you even begin to forgive your husband for being unfaithful, not once, but many times, while you're still in love with him? Welcome to the Ex Perspective podcast. I'm your host, Raj, and this is episode 22. At 19, Flora Aye left Burma for Bangkok, where she would eventually meet the man she'd marry. She fell deeply in love, and together they had 3 children. Today, it has been 9 years since 42-year-old Flora walked away from her unfaithful husband to build a life on her own. This is a story about a single mom of 3 who learned to accept her husband's betrayal and eventually forgave him. In this episode, Flora speaks openly about the role forgiveness played in her healing and self-discovery. When trust is broken, does forgiving the person who caused you so much pain really bring happiness and peace? If so, how? Now come with me and let's see what Flora has to say about this. You became a single mom 9 years ago and you have 3 children. How did you end up being a single mom? What happened to you?
So I decided to leave my domestic relationship and I wanted to restart and rebuild my life.
What happened to you? Why did you have to leave your relationship?
Because there were a lot of problems in the marriage, and it was a lot of infidelity cases and all. So when I learned that, first I try okay, I can forgive, I will keep going, that kind of thing. But when there are so many things pile up and build up, that was the time I started to realize that I need to make changes.
Okay, so just for my audience, Flora is referring to her relationship with her ex-husband. She lived with him for 10 years.
Yes, correct.
And during that time, those 10 years, Flora, you told me that he cheated on you several times.
Yes.
So why didn't you leave the relationship earlier?
Because I wasn't strong enough to, and I wasn't wise enough to, because I also thought that he would change. Because every time, things came out, he would be like, oh, I'm so sorry, this will happen again. And I was emotional that time. I was young, and I also felt helpless. A lot of things, like me being alone in another country and then having kids. And there were moments I was stay-at-home mom, and I was homeschooling my children. So I didn't have my own financial freedom and everything. So there were a lot of things I couldn't get up.
Okay, so Flora, you told me you're from Burma.
Yes.
Growing up as a Burmese, how much of that cultural influence impacted how you reacted to the situation that came up in your life when it was dealing with your ex-husband?
I would say that being Burmese make you really resilient in life compared to other people, because we grew up in a really difficult situation, right? So one bad thing happened to you and people did wrong thing to us, I think we are more capable of accepting and forgiving, because we literally grew up and always lived with government system, which always did so many bad things to us. So I would say that Burmese people growing up in Burma make me resilient already. And forgiving, it's one of the resilient skill in life.
I'm very curious, in your culture, What is the outlook when it comes to, say, a situation like yours where unfortunately your partner cheats on you? How are you supposed to react? Like, what do people say in your culture? What is the right thing to do at that point? Do you stay with your partner, or is it, yes, you move on?
Traditionally, in my culture, they will say, you're a woman, so you forgive, and you have kids, you are more responsible to forgive, and you just have to forgive and let go and stay in there.
Stay in the relationship. And so you have this idea now, right? Based on your culture, but yet inside you're feeling hurt and you want to let go of the relationship. And you did. How did you choose? Why did you choose that as opposed to staying with your tradition?
Because for some years, I already tried with the forgiving and trying to stay, not to break, right? Because you already built a home with somebody, children involved. So whenever I think to leave, I already build up with that guilt because the society will tell you this because I was already brainwashed, and also I have to face a family, and my family, like we kind of like marry in a Christian way. We both were Christian, so in Christian, like forgiving is also very important, and there's no divorce in Christian marriage, right? So it was harder. Even after I told my mom and all, I want to leave. Like everyone is like, you have kids, think about kids. So for me, it was very difficult because you have to fight against your own like society, your belief system. And after that, still today, staying in my like society as a single mom is not something people feel proud of or people take positive.
It was a difficult situation for you. And I understand that it was very difficult for you to forgive him. It took you a long time to do so. How long did it take?
I will say that the main, like, okay, I forgive, takes 3 years.
So was there ever a moment when you felt that holding on to your anger was causing you more harm than help?
I will say that not being able to forgive him was a poison for me because I was always constantly, my energy is draining because I was holding grudges towards him. Because of him, this happened. Because of, I was very angry. So that is poison, and that is also draining my energy. And I couldn't be a better person because of all those things pulling me, from behind.
Can you give an example?
There are so many like moments I have to go through, but I would say that normally, like, okay, I try to forget everything in the daytime, right? So I will be busy with children and all, but at night when everything quiet and when I will want to go to bed, but I couldn't sleep because I was overly exhausted, so overstimulated in my body that my nervous system cannot like calm down to sleep. And in those moments, I will be like, oh, my life is always like that because this happened, this person did this to me, right? So I start to think negative. And then night hours are where we tend to think more negative. So I'm not like energized, happy in reality. In the daytime, I will be like, coffee helps me, everything helped me, I'm okay. But deep down that you are forcing yourself to keep going.
When you found out that he cheated on you, were you shocked or did you see it coming?
I wasn't very shocked because I found out so many things. And sometimes I didn't even look for it. Things come to me in that way. So every time I found out, I will not say I am shocked. I wasn't shocked, but I was disappointed every time. Disappointed this time, disappointed more like that.
Okay, so you were aware, but you were trying to keep a blind eye towards it because you were thinking about your kids?
Yes. So I was also, because I love that person, so I was hopeful that person will change. Like we make mistakes. Okay, he will change. So I was kind of like tolerated all those things. I will also say that because I was very emotional, I thought everything from love, like, oh, I love, so just, I was always processing myself in the emotions, not with my own intellectual skill.
So then what finally did it for you?
Because I started to notice I became very unhappy person inside of me. It's not even because of like he was cheating that time or like that, but I became very unhappy more and more and more. And it affected me how I, like interact with my children, everything, because I don't have happiness inside of me. I don't have that love inside of me. I cannot pour out to other people. So with kids too, I may be more impatient. I will force myself to be patient when I'm playing with kids or like that. But after that, I get mental burnout a lot at night. Like I told you, I couldn't sleep. So all those things are like detracting my physical health, mental health, emotional health, and no area in my life I am seeing any good thing I'm doing. So when you learn to forgive everything really get better. I became a different person.
And can you tell us more about that? Learning to forgive. What did you do for yourself? Like, how did you work on yourself to be able to forgive your ex-husband?
First of all, I would say that the beginning is acceptance. Like something happened, this happened, that happened. You just have to accept this happened. Either I like it or I don't like it. I want it or not. This happened already. So you have to accept that one. And the first step is really difficult sometimes because we are always human and we always want things in our own expectation and all.
What did you accept?
I have to accept that this person is that kind of person and he is always, capable of doing this. And I just learned that.
So acceptance was important.
Yes.
What else was important in your journey?
So after you accept what happened, you have to do the first step of letting go because you have no control over it. It happened. And that person, you cannot change. I have to accept that. So that was the second point, which is the first step of letting go. And after that, forgiving. Forgiving has like two sides because you have to forgive that person who did wrong to you and you have to forgive yourself because after we forgive another person we left with the guilt
You're left with the guilt. Okay.
Because why I am so stupid to believe this person, why I'm like so stupid or like not wise enough to be able to control that one. So you blame yourself that period. So after that, you have to forgive. So forgiveness has two steps. And after that, you really have to let go of everything, which is a releasing everything. So that is like that.
Flora, did self-love and emotional regulation play any kind of role in your forgiveness journey?
Yes. I would say that without self-love, I will not even able to, start this whole changing and transforming my life to another part. Regulating emotion is a skill we need to practice every single day. Because recently I have been studying mental health and like psychology, and also regulating emotion is very important. Also because of single mom with 3 young children to survive in Bangkok, regulating emotion is very important for you, everyone around you.
Can you give me a time when you had to really regulate your emotion during this whole process?
This whole process means
the 3 years when you were trying really hard to forgive him. And, I imagine that events were replaying. And as you talked about earlier, there was a lot of self-blame. So how are you regulating your emotions?
First of all, sometimes it's like I get too emotional. I don't understand what triggered me or what made me to get that intense rage in that moment. But whenever I start to feel that one, I could notice that I feel suffocated in my system, right? So I ask my question what is happening? Why? And how to control. Every time we have something even headache, we want to control over it, right? So when I want to control what is happening to me, I start to learn about emotional regulating. So first, I cannot regulate anything. So the only first thing I can do is take a breath, right? So that is
take a breath.
Yes, that is the first step of emotional regulating. So because I learned that when we take a deep breath, it's the oxygen go to our brain and our regulating in our blood system and all. So that is helpful for us. So sometimes it's like you cannot even do it one time. I always do when I'm really mad at my children and everything. Like the first 3 years, I was really painful because I restarted everything from beginning. So financially and everything, I'm in very bad place. So every time, every bad thing happen is my thought is like because of him. Because so that is constantly all day. When children are hard on me, that like I have to do everything alone.
Flora, can you think of a situation during that time where you were triggered by your ex-husband and you had to use your emotional regulation? Was there a specific event that comes to mind that's very vivid to you?
I have many, but I would say that during that 3 years, forgiving him, like in the beginning, the first year, because in that time he was still in Thailand and we live in the same condo but different unit. So he started dating someone. So I met them in the elevator. Like we three in the elevator, but I didn't talk to him because he didn't talk to me, right? So I didn't talk to him, but I don't know. I was feeling really a lot of things inside. I have to breathe and I have to like understand, accept that time to, okay, he is free to be with that lady there because we already done and all those kind of things. I have to do a lot of self-talk.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult it must have been considering you were still processing everything and then you're stuck in this elevator with him. What was the emotion that dominated your thoughts at that time?
I think it is more like I could feel the loss and grief more in that time.
Okay. Flora, how important is self-awareness when you're trying to let go?
Self-awareness is very important because without we being aware of what we are feeling and why we are feeling, we couldn't fix. So self-awareness will come like top priority.
And I absolutely agree. If you don't have awareness of what is happening or what's bothering you, or you're not taking out the time and the energy to figure it out, how are you supposed to fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very important. What was the hardest thing for you about letting go of the pain that was caused by your ex-husband?
I would say that the hardest thing is the effort you put to continuously heal yourself and release that negativity from your heart until it all cleansing. Until even you cannot clean out everything what happened until those things has no effect, negative effect on you, on how you feel and on your daily basis.
And did you know at a certain point that you had healed?
Yes, because when you are healing is like it happens slowly and some moment you will not have. But when you heal, you know to the point that you gain more peace. You no longer feel shaken. You no longer feel affected by things that used to trigger you or things doesn't come in your way.
And going back to your story, can you tell us a time when you felt that? Was there a moment when you were either interacting with your ex-husband or you were present with him where you felt, okay, you know what? I don't feel triggered anymore. I don't feel angry anymore.
So there were so many moments of like that. And I will say that lately, like from like 1.5 years ago, like the way I have to do conversation with that person become really smooth. I become that like, I'm even surprised of myself how diplomatic I am, how appreciative I am to everything. Even he didn't do what he has to do. I'm like, okay, thank you so much for the effort, at least half he did, because some people could choose to not do it at all. So I start to appreciate and I start to give words of affirmation to that person. And I think that person could feel it because he also start to become really like kinder to me. But now I would say that the relationship is really diplomatic, really respectful towards each other. I think because that person can feel my energy towards him too.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, it was because you forgave him and you let go of the pain that he caused you, your relationship came better.
Yes.
What kind of role does he play for your kids these days?
He just a biological father from far, and whenever he can, he, like partially support financially for his kids.
Okay, I want to go back and talk a little bit more about the connection between letting go and forgiveness with your story. So, as you were going through this process of forgiving, I imagine that your thoughts softened, meaning they became less intense, less painful as forgiveness kicked in.
Yes.
Can you describe to us that feeling? What happened?
I noticed I have more peace and love. And then I also gain more compassion for myself. So self-compassion.
Sorry, what was that?
Self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
So it is more than self-love, like something you gain that like unconditional love to your own self and always understanding. Because when I try to understand the situation and other people in my life, I feel like I also gain how to have like more love, more respect for myself. So that is something I gain from that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was there something that you gained from this experience that you weren't expecting?
I would say the freedom in my mind. So I am very free-spirited person now. Ultimate peace and freedom for myself I gain.
Okay, so there's so many benefits. What I'm understanding, there's so many benefits of getting to that place where you can actually let go and forgive someone. It frees you.
Exactly.
Would you say that you felt like you were like in a prison or something when you, like mentally, when you were struggling to forgive him?
Yes. So you are not just being in a prison. I would say you are chained. For me, that is how I see myself. When I don't forgive my ex, I was chained. I couldn't move on in my life well. I don't have that love, right, inside of me. So I cannot like see when other people give me love, or I don't know how to receive it. When I let go of everything in my life, like how I attract other people, like change too.
I know you touched on this earlier, but can you tell us in a little bit more detail? Would you say that actually the forgiveness is what led you to have a better relationship with your ex-husband and feel better? Is that what it was? It was just
Yes.
the forgiveness?
Forgiveness and understanding other as who they are, not in my own way only.
And can you tell me, like, how did your life change, your life and your mental state change after you were able to let go?
I became lighter, so I became happier person. Like happier in the way that like when I will see that when I master that forgiveness, I'm happy regardless of like anything happened to me. Even I wake up, I see like this morning from the window, the sun, how it is like on, on the other building, like the way it is. I'm like, oh, like the view is so beautiful. Because you wake up, your mind is like canvas. But when
Yes.
you cannot forgive, like you wake up, you know that those people did wrong to me and what I deserve to, receive this. And you are always in that position of why me. You cannot feel any positive thing around you because you are just like you said, you are in your own prison mind. You lock yourself. But for me, I say that not just like prison, I was chained.
You were chained.
Like I feel like I chained myself.
Are you wearing any chains today?
No. I broke all my chains.
Oh, that is so
I'm totally
nice.
free.
That is so great.
Today, who I am as standing here, sitting here, and being able to share what I know, being able to endure everything in my life with everything, all those strengths come from I broke through the system and rebuilt myself.
Was it also like you were listening to your inner self, like your voice, like what you really wanted to do, as opposed to listening to maybe what the external world was telling you?
Yes. So I listened to myself a lot since I was young. I was always so I was always seen as a rebellious kid because I always listened to myself. But when those things happened, I was still in love. So like even like to leave, like make me heartbroken already. I am already heartbroken in the relationship because of all those cheating. But to leave is another thing, which I have been with that person for 10 years. So it took me a lot of like like courageous. Every like nights I have to ask questions to myself over and over again. So for me, it took 8 months to make that decision to leave.
And you are happy with your decision today?
Yes, I will. I always say that that is one of the best decision I made in my life. In my adulthood, I would say the best decision I made.
Do you ever wish that you had forgiven your ex-husband earlier?
I never thought in that way because I think in that time I didn't have that mental capacity to even understand like, forgiving. So now I'm not sure like it will be better if I forgive him earlier or like that, but I'm very happy that I did all those things and now here I am. I'm happy of everything happened in my life. So I don't want to think that like, oh, I wish I did it earlier because I didn't know. I wasn't in that place. So whatever happened, it goes with its best timing as I want to take.
That is so positive, and I'm so happy that you have that attitude. And how did that experience of forgiving him, which was very difficult for you because it took 3 years, how has that impacted your relationship with other people now when it comes to forgiving? Because, people will upset you here and there. Has it helped?
It helped because I feel like I have gained endurance. So you kind of feel more like confident, like, okay, I survived this. I have done this hard work, right? So even new thing happen, you are already in a better position to see things and to be able to manage yourself. So I would say that I gain confidence as well.
Nice. So you're also able to regulate your emotions better now and you gained confidence. And when situations come up that may be challenging, they're something that you can, take care of as opposed to being so confused now, right?
Yes, in terms of like forgiveness, right? Because we are going to face those kind of things in our daily basic and you have to forgive others over and over. You have to forgive yourself over and over for things. So I think forgiving is a skill. Yes. And it is something you can always practice and it is for you. I would say it's a life hack for your survival in life.
And can you explain to my audience, based on your experience, how would you say that forgiveness is connected with letting go?
I will say that letting go is the first step to do because you knowing that you have no control. So you have to surrender. Letting go is surrendering. But most of the people think surrendering is being powerless. But actually surrendering is like you really take a lot of strength to do that. Strength and wisdom, I would say. And forgiveness is another step. It is like you claiming your superpower.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. Because some people might think that letting go, you've kind of given up. But that's not what you're saying.
Yes, because I think we were always taught, like kind of brainwashed in our young day, like surrendering is always like you surrender to people who are more powerful than you. Like in the story, we read battles, right? Surrendering. But actually surrendering is sometimes being wise because not every fight is for you and you may not have that. You are strong enough to face. So when you have that wisdom and you surrender it, because even in the history, in the war story, sometimes surrendering take you to better places. So I think surrendering takes a lot of wisdom.
So what did it finally feel like when you let go and you forgave him?
I said I broke the chain, so I feel really free, right? And then when you really broke the chain, it's the time you start to feel your own strength. Because before everything was holding you. So when you feel free, you start to feel yourself. And it is the whole... For me, forgiveness is my self-discovery as well. I understand myself, I respect myself more, and I see myself which direction I should go. So in life, we always have like sometimes we feel lost and all, but I look back, all those experiences I did, I overcame, and those are the strengths for me to step more.
Somebody who may be listening to this podcast right now might be struggling with forgiving someone who has hurt them or they're in a situation that is difficult to let go of. What would you say to them?
I want you to take time and then that time you start to think like to ask yourself like in 5 years, what kind of person you want to be? Like when you cannot forgive someone, we all know that deep down we have that negative deeds, we hold on to it and we are not happy. And in that next 5 years, do you want to see yourself in that same position, or do you want to see yourself happier, and do you want to transform in a place that you never thought it will happen? It starts with forgiveness.
Flora said that forgiving others is a skill and, in fact, a superpower. Would you agree? Do you think that if you forgave the person that caused you immense pain and suffering, you would be free from your anger? I really like the quote by Louis B. Smeets. Quote, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you." Unquote. It makes me think about how our reactions to others' actions can make all the difference. How much of the pain that we carry is actually self-inflicted after an already painful experience? I also like how Flora encourages us to think about the kind of person we want to be 5 years from now. Do you want to walk around seething with anger, carrying heavy, invisible chains, or do you want to be light and free? I will leave you with this. Forgiving someone who has hurt you is not easy, but is it not worth it for your own peace of mind? Thanks so much for your attention and time. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting us on Patreon or buying us a Thai milk tea. You can visit the X Perspective podcast website for more information. There are also links in the description section. Your support helps us keep sharing meaningful stories. And please don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified whenever a new episode drops. Ever get to the end of the month and wonder where all your money went? Well, now there's a free app called Enough Spent. You open it, type what you spent, and you're done. Your coffee won't even get cold. It works in over 150 currencies, which is great if you're traveling, and it works offline too. No account needed, no sign up. If you've ever wanted to track your spending without dealing with some complicated finance app, search for Enough Spent on Google Play. Thanks again for being here. And remember, every perspective creates a story. See you in episode 23.